When I turned 13, my stepdad canceled my birthday without warning and told my friends I didn't even want them there. I sat there, staring at my plate. Now he's the one standing in the driveway while officers take my mom's statement inside. When I was 13, life back in my hometown was about as good as it gets. I had close friends, teachers I liked, after-school stuff I enjoyed. Everything felt easy and familiar. But then Mom met Jason, and overnight it all fell apart. Jason was nothing like my real dad, who had passed a few years earlier. Where Dad had been kind and calm, Jason was loud, bossy, and set in his ways. He packed us up and moved us across the state to his big, cold house, far away from everyone and everything I knew. Suddenly, I was completely alone. I ate lunch by myself at school. At home, Mom barely talked to me. Jason always seemed annoyed no matter what I did. He'd yell over the smallest things, cursing and barking orders like he owned the place and me. Things stayed like that for months. After weeks of begging, Mom finally said I could have a small birthday party. I was so excited I thought I burst. Every night, I stayed up late planning it all out, imagining how great it would be to see my friends. I hand-wrote every invitation, covered them with stickers and doodles, trying to show how much I missed them. The week before the party, I cleaned the house like my life depended on it. Scrubbed the kitchen, bathrooms, even Jason's dusty old den. Outside, I raked the yard and pulled weeds till my back hurt. But I didn't mind. It was worth it to see my friends again, even for just one day. Then, 2 days before the party, Mom called me into the garage. She was twisting her wedding ring around and wouldn't meet my eyes. In a low voice, she told me the party was canceled because Jason's buddy was coming over. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. Jason had already called my friend's parents without even telling me. Said I canceled it myself because I didn't want to see them. I just stood there, frozen and numb. That night at dinner, I gave it one last shot. I asked if we could maybe move the party to the next weekend. Jason just groaned, sighed like I was annoying him, and said, "Let's not drag this out," before digging into his steak. Mom quickly changed the subject, talking about some sale at the mall. On my birthday morning, Mom mumbled a quick, "Happy birthday," as she rushed past me. The rest of the day felt like any other crappy day. I spent it helping her cook and clean for Jason's friend, the one who ruined everything. When the guy showed up with a bottle of wine, he had no clue it was my birthday. Mom mentioned it under her breath, and the guy looked shocked. When he realized Jason canceled my party just to host him, he gave Jason a disgusted look. He was so put off, he left not long after, telling Jason he needed to get his priorities straight. I remember a little smirk sneaking across my face, but it disappeared fast when Jason barked at me to go to my room. I probably should have given up then, but I still held on to a sliver of hope. Later, I overheard them talking about checking out some new coffee shop. I pulled together my last bit of courage and asked if I could come too. I promised I'd stay quiet and just grab a donut. Mom gave me the sad, guilty look and said, "You're happy staying here, right?" She said it like she needed me to agree. Like it made things easier for her. My heart sank, but I nodded. As they walked out the door, I made a decision. I was done being the punching bag. If Jason thought I was a nuisance, I was about to show him just how much trouble I could be. I started small. Jason had this huge vinyl collection sorted by genre and release date, and he treated it like a museum. One afternoon while they were out, I carefully reorganized it all alphabetically. When Jason came home and went to put on a record, he noticed immediately. His face turned this deep, angry red. I put on my most innocent face and said I was just trying to help organize. Mom jumped in, saying how thoughtful I was, so Jason had to swallow his anger. But he kept shooting me these suspicious looks all night. That night, I started a journal. I logged every time Jason yelled, cursed, or treated Mom and me like garbage. I wrote down dates, times, and exactly what happened. I hid the journal under my mattress, feeling like a secret agent gathering intel. But one morning I messed up. I left it out on my desk before school. When I got home, there was Jason standing over it, flipping through the pages. My heart almost stopped. He held it up and asked what it was. Thinking fast, I told him it was a creative writing project for English about a fictional stepdad. He looked at me hard but handed it back. I could tell he hadn't read too much. After that close call, I knew I needed more than just notes. I needed proof. The next day at school, I booked an appointment with Ms. Preston, the school counselor. She seemed kind, and I thought maybe she could help. I started explaining about Jason, but she immediately said if she thought I was in danger, she'd have to report it. That scared me. So I quickly softened the story, made it sound like I just needed advice about adjusting to a new family. It wasn't ideal, but it bought me time and ideas. After that, I got serious about gathering evidence. I started using my phone to record Jason's blow-ups. The first time, the battery died halfway through him screaming about me using too much laundry detergent. After that, I got smart, hid phone chargers around the house. One under the couch in the living room, another tucked behind the hallway bookshelf. I got pretty good at spotting when Jason was about to blow up. His neck would turn red first, then his eyes would squint up real tight. After he slapped parental controls on all our devices, claiming it was for safety, I started using the school computers during lunch. I spent my breaks digging into family law and kids' rights, printing out anything useful and hiding the pages under my mattress with my journal. That's when I learned about emotional abuse. Reading those descriptions, it was like Jason's behavior was pulled straight from the textbook. One night while Jason was out, I tried showing Mom some of the articles. I thought maybe if she saw it in writing, she'd realize what was happening. But she got defensive fast, saying, "Jason provides for us. You just need to try harder to get along." She wouldn't even glance at the papers. That's when I knew words alone weren't gonna cut it. The next day at lunch, I borrowed Jamie's phone and texted my old best friend, Casey. At first, Casey was cold. They said everyone thought I'd abandoned them for my new life. I spent the whole lunch break explaining everything. By the end, Casey believed me and promised to help however they could. Just having that one connection to my old world made me feel less alone. With Casey back in my corner, I got brave enough to ask Mom if we could visit our hometown sometime. Jason overheard and completely lost it, yelling that I was ungrateful and trying to manipulate her. Mom just stood there, not saying a word. Right then, I realized direct fights with Jason weren't gonna get me anywhere. I had to be smarter. I started finding allies closer to home. Mrs. Sophia, our neighbor with the beautiful garden, was one. One Saturday, I offered to help her pull weeds. Jason saw us talking and later laid down a new rule: no talking to neighbors without permission. So I got creative. I accidentally bumped into neighbors while taking out trash or checking the mail. Short conversations, quick enough not to cause suspicion, but enough so people knew I existed. Meanwhile, I was still planning. After a month, I set up a private email account on the school computers to keep in touch with Casey and a few other friends. The very next day, Jason announced he was monitoring all internet traffic at home. But he couldn't see what I did at school. My little secret network stayed safe. I moved on to phase 2. Casey was going to send me a prepaid phone hidden inside a birthday card. Mom had started noticing how controlling Jason was getting, especially after he forbade me from calling my grandma, my dad's mom. If I could gather enough evidence and support, maybe we could finally leave. Or at least make Jason back off. I didn't know if it would work. Jason was smart, always watching. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel helpless. I had my journal, my recordings, and friends who knew the truth. And most importantly, I had a plan. Jason might have ruined my birthday, but he hadn't ruined me. Not yet. While waiting for Casey's package, I made sure to check the mail every morning. After a week of watching, I figured out the mail came around 10:30 a.m. Jason usually had a video meeting then, giving me a perfect window. Then Tuesday came and everything fell apart. Jason's meeting got canceled. He decided to get some fresh air just as the mail truck pulled up. I watched from the kitchen window as he grabbed the mail and flipped through it. My stomach dropped when I saw him pause on a colorful envelope. "What's this?" he asked, walking inside holding Casey's card. The return address said Aunt Karen, our code name. "I don't know," I said, trying to sound casual. "Maybe a late birthday card?" Jason narrowed his eyes and tore it open. I wanted to yell at him that it was my mail, but I kept my mouth shut. "Who's Aunt Karen?" he asked, pulling out the card with the phone taped inside. "I don't remember your mom mentioning an Aunt Karen." I scrambled. "Mom has a cousin Karen? Maybe? I don't know all the family." Jason clearly didn't buy it. "I'll hold onto this until we figure it out," he said, slipping the phone into his pocket. Seems odd to send a kid a phone without talking to the parents first. That night, I heard Jason and Mom arguing. For once, Mom stood up for me, saying he had no right to open my mail. Jason shouted about his house, his rules, and after that, Mom went quiet. The phone and my chance to reach Casey was gone. Time for Plan B. The next day, I borrowed Jamie's phone again and called my grandma. I hadn't spoken to her since we moved. The phone rang 4 times before she answered. "Hello?" Her voice made my throat tighten up. "Grandma, it's me," I said. "Oh my goodness," she gasped, sounding like she might cry. "I've been trying to reach you for months. I left so many messages with Jason." Hearing that crushed me. Jason had never told me she called. Not once. I found a quiet spot in the cafeteria, my hands shaking. "He never gave me any messages," I whispered. "I didn't know you were trying to call." There was a long pause on her end. "That man," she finally said, her voice trembling. I knew something was wrong. Your mother barely calls anymore, and when she does, he's always hovering. We talked until the lunch bell rang. I promised to call her again somehow. I walked back to class feeling both stronger and sadder. Stronger because Grandma still cared. Sadder because Jason had been cutting us off from everyone who loved us. That evening, I decided to confront Mom about it. I waited until Jason was busy in the garage. I found her folding laundry. Mom, I said, I talked to Grandma today. She froze, a t-shirt still half folded in her hands. How, she asked. At school, I said. Mom, she said she's been trying to reach us for months. Jason never told me. Mom sat down heavily on the bed. He said it was better if we made a clean break, she said quietly. He told me your grandmother blamed me for your father's death. What? Grandma would never say that. She loves you. I blurted it out before I could stop myself. Before Mom could answer, I heard the door from the garage slam. Jason was back inside. Mom quickly put a finger to her lips and we both went back to folding laundry like nothing had happened. Later that night, I casually brought it up again, suggesting maybe we could invite Grandma over. Just for a day, just to catch up. I didn't know Jason was lurking in the hallway. He stormed into the kitchen, face already that deep warning shade of red. Absolutely not, he snapped. I'm not having that woman in my house criticizing everything. He pointed a finger at me. This ends now. I'm putting an end to all this nonsense once and for all. I didn't have my school recorder with me that day, but my phone was in my pocket. I slipped my hand in and pressed record, praying it would catch everything. Jason ranted for a good 10 minutes, shouting about how ungrateful we both were, how he'd given us a perfect life, and all we did was stab him in the back. Mom stood there, hunched over, murmuring things like, yes, Jason, and I understand every so often. The next day at lunch, I used the school computer to email the recording to Grandma and Casey. I figured it was safer having backup copies than just keeping it on my phone. What I didn't count on was Mr. Thompson, the school's IT guy monitoring student activity. That afternoon, he called Mom. Mrs. Marshall, this is Luke Barrett from Westlake Middle School, he said. I'm calling because we noticed your son's sending unusual emails today with audio attachments. It's against school policy to use computers for personal communication. Mom apologized and said she'd talk to me. When I got home, she wasn't mad, just worried. What were you sending, honey? I was just about to come clean when Jason walked in. What's this about emails? He demanded. I shrugged and said, just a project for audio editing class. I was sending myself some test files. Jason didn't buy it. Not one bit. That night, he laid down new rules. No computer use at school unless it was supervised, daily phone checks, and a 7 p.m. curfew for being in my room. Mom looked uneasy about it but didn't say much. So I tried a new tactic, make the control so obvious that even she couldn't pretend it was normal. The next morning at breakfast, I said, in my sweetest voice, Jason, may I please have some water? He looked confused but nodded. A few minutes later, Jason, may I please use the bathroom? By dinner, I was asking permission for every little thing. Jason, may I please sit down? Jason, may I please use a napkin? I could see Mom noticing. She kept frowning, her eyes darting between us. Jason got more and more wound up. Finally, when I asked Jason, may I please pass the salt, he exploded. Stop with the attitude, he barked. I'm not giving attitude, sir, I said, pouring it on thick. I'm just following the rules and asking permission. The sir was the final straw. Jason slammed his hand on the table so hard the plates jumped. Go to your room. No dinner tonight. I went upstairs without arguing, even though my stomach was growling. Lying there, I pressed my ear to the floor. Through the muffled sounds, I could hear Mom and Jason arguing. For the first time ever, I heard Mom actually raise her voice to him. The next morning, when she reached for the cereal box, I spotted a small bruise on her wrist. Just a faint purple mark, but I noticed it instantly. What happened to your arm? I asked, my voice low. She quickly pulled her sleeve down. Oh, I bumped into the counter last night. It's nothing. But her eyes didn't meet mine. And right then, something heavy settled in my gut. This wasn't just about me anymore. Jason was hurting her too. I knew I had to speed things up. That day at school, I heard about a science fair happening in 2 weeks. Parents were invited. Right away, I thought about Grandma. This could be our shot to see her without Jason knowing ahead of time. At lunch, I called Grandma using Jamie's phone and explained the plan. She agreed to show up to surprise me. Jason wouldn't dare make a scene with teachers and parents all around. Grandma even booked a hotel room nearby, hoping maybe Mom and I could sneak away to meet her. For the first time in a long time, I felt real hope. But the night before the fair, Jason killed it. We're not going tomorrow, he announced over dinner. Family emergency. We're driving to my brother's. But the science fair, I protested. My project. Your project isn't as important as family, Jason snapped. End of discussion. Mom wouldn't even look at me. She knew he was lying and said nothing. The next day at school, desperate, I wrote a note to my science teacher, Ms. Carver. Ms. Carver, my grandmother was coming to surprise me at the science fair because Jason, Mom's boyfriend, won't let me see her. Please tell her I'm sorry I missed her. I really want to see her. I slipped the note under her door and prayed she would understand. That evening, during dinner, the phone rang. Jason answered. I watched his face tighten as he spoke. Yes, this is Jason Ellis, he said. He was using Mom's last name like they were married. What's this about? From his body language, I could tell it was Ms. Carver calling about my note. Jason's knuckles turned white around the phone. He has a very active imagination, Jason said with a fake chuckle. Kids, right? Thanks for your concern, but everything's fine. He hung up and glared straight at me. Pack up your science project, he ordered. You're transferring to Oak Ridge starting Monday. Mom finally spoke up. Jason, you can't just change his school without discussing it with me. Watch me, he barked. Your precious little angel just told his teacher I'm abusing him. You want CPS showing up? Mom didn't back down this time. What exactly did the teacher say? She pressed. It threw Jason off. He wasn't used to her questioning him. Doesn't matter, he growled. What matters is he's causing problems. He's going somewhere new where no one knows us. I'm going to that parent-teacher conference, Mom said, standing her ground. Alone. I want to hear exactly what's going on. Jason opened his mouth to argue, but she cut him off. No, Jason. This is my child. I'm going. I couldn't believe it. For the first time in forever, Mom was standing up to him. Mom was actually standing up to him. Jason didn't like that one bit. He eventually stormed off to the garage, slamming the door so hard it rattled the pictures on the wall. The next day, Mom went off to meet with Ms. Carver while Jason stayed home, supposedly to keep an eye on me. Really, he spent the time tearing through my room. I watched from the hallway as he yanked out my mattress, dug through my dresser drawers, and rummaged around in my closet. And then he found my journal. I held my breath as he opened it, flipping through the pages. His face darkened with every word he read. I backed away slowly and slipped out to the backyard to wait for Mom. When she got home, she looked different, like a steel door had slammed shut inside her. She found me sitting on the back steps and quietly sat down beside me. Ms. Carver showed me the note you left, she said. She also told me you seem withdrawn at school, that you eat lunch alone. Why didn't you tell me how bad things were? I shrugged. You never listened before. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I'm listening now, she whispered. And I've been thinking a lot about your grandmother. Jason had no right to block her calls. Just then, the back door creaked open. Jason stood there, holding my journal like a weapon. Care to explain this? He asked, his voice dangerously calm. Mom stood up straight. Were you in his room, Jason? Going through his things? Don't change the subject, he snapped. Your son's been keeping a secret file against me. He's planning to use it against us. Against you, I corrected firmly. Not us. Just you. Go to your room, Mom said, her voice steady. She didn't even look at me, her eyes were locked on Jason. Now. I went back inside but stayed in the hallway close enough to hear them arguing out on the patio. Their voices rose and fell. I caught Mom mentioning Grandma and then Jason's voice booming louder. I've had it with both of you, he roared. Maybe I need to rethink this whole arrangement. You think you can do better than this house? This life I gave you. Are you threatening to kick us out? Mom asked calmly. I'm saying I deserve some damn appreciation and respect in my own home. They kept arguing, but when they moved back inside, their voices dropped too low for me to hear. I crept back to my room, heart pounding. Was he really going to throw us out? Could we go to Grandma's? Later that night, Mom came into my room. Jason was out in the garage again, probably stewing. Show me, she said simply. Everything you've collected. I pulled out the printed articles from under my mattress, the recordings saved on my phone, and the journal that Jason had thrown back onto my bed with a look of pure disgust. Mom went through every page slowly, listening to the recordings with her hand pressed over her mouth. I thought I was protecting you, she finally said, tears welling up. I thought what we needed most after your dad died was a stable home. Financial security. I was wrong. For the first time, we seriously talked about leaving. Mom admitted she was scared. Jason controlled all the money, her paychecks went straight into a joint account he managed. She had to ask him for grocery money. The house was in his name. The car too. But we can figure it out, she said, a spark of determination in her voice. First step was gathering important documents, birth certificates, social security cards, my dad's life insurance info. Most of it was in the filing cabinet in Jason's office. We started making secret plans. Mom began skimming a little cash from the grocery budget each week, hiding it away. I kept track of Jason's schedule, noting when he went golfing or out with his friends. Then one day, luck threw us a bone. The house phone rang while Jason was in the shower and Mom was down in the basement doing laundry. I picked up and it was Grandma. Just hearing her voice made me feel braver. "We're figuring out how to leave," I whispered. "It might take some time." "I can help," Grandma said. "I've been talking to a family lawyer friend." The shower turned off upstairs. I panicked. "I have to go." "Love you," I whispered before hanging up. I barely had time to breathe before Jason came stomping downstairs, hair still wet. "Who was that?" he barked. "Someone from school." "Homework stuff," I lied quickly. He narrowed his eyes but didn't push it. The next morning, I woke up to shouting downstairs. I crept to the top of the stairs and peeked around the corner. Jason was standing in the doorway, blocking Grandma from stepping any further inside. "You don't get to decide who visits my house," he bellowed. Mom was standing behind him, looking terrified and somehow relieved. "I drove 5 hours to see my grandson and daughter-in-law," Grandma said calmly. "I'm not leaving until I do." Jason's face was beet red. "You weren't invited. You can't just show up like this." Right then, a car door slammed outside. Our neighbor, Mr. Clayton, appeared at the open door. "Everything okay over here?" he asked, looking between Jason and Grandma. Heard the shouting from across the street. Jason's whole demeanor flipped. He slapped on a fake smile and said, "Just a misunderstanding. Family stuff. You know how it is." With the neighbor watching, Jason had no choice but to let Grandma in. He faked being a gracious host, but I could see the rage bubbling under the surface. During lunch, Grandma casually dropped a bombshell. "I'm looking at a place about 20 minutes from here," she said. "Would be nice to see you two more often." Jason's knuckles turned white around his fork. "How nice," he muttered through clenched teeth. After a tense afternoon, Grandma finally left, promising to visit again soon. The second her car pulled out of the driveway, Jason exploded. He grabbed a framed photo of Mom, Dad, and me off the mantel and hurled it against the wall. Glass shattered everywhere. "Don't you ever ambush me like that again," he screamed at Mom. "This is MY house." He turned to me next, his face purple with rage. "And you. I know you're behind this. You're grounded for a month. No friends, no activities, nothing." But what Jason didn't know was that I'd hidden my school voice recorder behind some books in the living room before Grandma showed up. It had recorded everything, his screaming, the threats, and the part where he roared about throwing all our stuff onto the lawn if we ever pulled something like this again. That night, after Jason headed out to the garage to mess with his car, I slipped my voice recorder to Mom. She listened to it with her hand clamped over her mouth, tears running down her cheeks. "I had no idea it was this bad," she whispered. "I knew he had a temper, but hearing it like this..." We didn't have much time before Jason would come back inside. Mom quickly handed the recorder back to me. "Hide this somewhere safe," she said. "We're leaving. Soon." "How soon?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I need to figure some things out first," she said. "Money stuff, but we're going to Grandma's. I promise." She leaned in close. "If you ever feel unsafe, we have a code word. Okay? Say blue chess piece, and I'll know it's time to go. No questions asked." The sound of the garage door rattling made us both jump. Mom wiped her face just in time as Jason came strolling in. For the next week, it felt like we were living on eggshells. Jason stayed mad about Grandma's visit, but it simmered into cold silence instead of his usual explosions. Meanwhile, Mom quietly started packing an emergency bag. Just the basics. Clothes, toiletries, some of her medications. She stashed it deep in her closet under old winter sweaters. I packed a backpack too, just the essentials. My journal, the recordings, and a photo of Dad. Every day, we added a little more to our secret bags. Every night, I went to bed wondering if tomorrow would be the day we finally left. Then one afternoon, I came home from school and found Jason in Mom's closet, rifling through her things. My heart stopped when I saw our emergency bags sitting there on the bed. Jason turned and spotted me in the doorway. "What's this?" he asked, his voice way too calm. I forced myself to stay still. "I don't know," I said. "Mom's stuff, I guess." Jason nodded slowly, almost thoughtfully. "Funny," he said. "Looks an awful lot like someone's planning to leave." I didn't say a word. My heart was hammering so hard I was sure he could hear it. Jason stepped closer. You wouldn't happen to know anything about this, would you? I shook my head quickly. He studied my face for a long moment, then brushed past me and walked out. I ran to my school tablet and sent Mom a message. He found the bags. When Mom got home, Jason was waiting. He didn't yell this time, which somehow made it even scarier. Instead, he talked in a low, fake calm voice about loyalty and trust, about everything he'd done for us, how ungrateful we were. If you want to leave, Sophia, he said, using Mom's full name like a weapon. Just say so, but understand what you're giving up. The house, the car, security. You really want to drag your son back into poverty? Mom looked at me, then at Jason. We need to talk about this, she said. But not now. Not like this. Jason nodded like he had won. Take some time, he said. Make the smart choice. That night, after Jason went to bed, Mom slipped into my room. We're still leaving, she whispered. But we have to be smarter. I'm gonna make him think I changed my mind. We'll wait until he lets his guard down. For the next couple of weeks, Mom played her part perfectly. She smiled at Jason, acted affectionate, even left her phone out where he could check it. She chatted about remodeling the house, making Jason believe she was in it for the long haul. I played along too, acting polite around Jason, pretending everything was normal. It made my skin crawl, but I knew it was our only shot. Meanwhile, Mom got busy behind the scenes. She used part of her lunch breaks to open a new bank account at a different bank. She changed her paycheck to go there instead of the joint account. She made copies of our important documents, birth certificates, social security cards, when Jason was off golfing. She stayed in touch with Grandma, planning every detail. The plan was simple. Leave while Jason was at his monthly golf game. Grandma would meet us 2 blocks away. We'd grab our bags and disappear. But 3 days before our planned escape, Jason threw a wrench in everything. I'm taking some time off work, he announced at dinner. Thought we could do some family stuff. Maybe head up to the lake house. Mom and I locked eyes. This was a disaster. He wouldn't be golfing. We wouldn't have the chance to leave safely. Mom pasted on a bright smile. That sounds wonderful. When were you thinking? Off starting Thursday. We could leave first thing in the morning. Thursday was our escape day. That night, Mom whispered a new plan. We had to create a distraction to get Jason out of the house, even for just a few minutes. Grandma would still come, but this time she'd pull right up to the house. Thursday morning came with a pit in my stomach. Jason was cheerful, talking about lake activities, totally unaware. Mom kept up the act, pretending she was excited. I tried not to look like I was about to throw up. After breakfast, Mom accidentally knocked a full glass of water onto the basement door. Oh no, she cried. It's leaking through. Jason rushed over and, sure enough, water was seeping under the door. When he opened it, Mom tripped and dumped her entire coffee mug down the stairs. What the hell, Sophia? Jason barked. I'm so sorry. Let me grab some towels. She rushed to the kitchen and gave me a quick, meaningful look. This was it. Jason stomped down into the basement to check the mess. The second he was out of sight, Mom and I snatched up our hidden bags and bolted for the door. We made it to the car, Mom's hands trembling as she fumbled with the keys. Just as she started the engine, the front door slammed open. Jason came charging outside, his face twisted with rage. What do you think you're doing? He screamed, running toward us. Mom threw the car in reverse just as Jason reached us, slamming his hands down on the hood. Stop the car. Mom carefully steered around him, but he kept moving, trying to block our path. I grabbed my phone and called Grandma. We need help, I said. Jason's blocking the car. I'm 2 minutes away, she said. Hold tight. Jason stood in the driveway like a bull, refusing to budge. Then he whipped out his phone. I'm calling the police, he threatened. You can't take my car, Jason growled. It's not your car, Mom shot back, her voice steady and firm. Check the registration. It's in my name. Jason hesitated, confused just long enough for Grandma's car to come screeching up to the curb. Right behind her, another car pulled up. It was the family lawyer Mom had told me about, a serious-looking guy who wasted no time getting out. Jason's eyes widened as they both approached. He started backing up toward the house. You can't do this, he stammered, but the fight had drained out of his voice. Sophia, think about what you're doing. The lawyer, Mr. Whitaker, stepped up to Jason, a document in his hand. Mr. Marshall, this is a restraining order, he said calmly. based on documented evidence of emotional abuse and threats. You're required to stay at least 100 feet away from Sophia and her son, effective immediately. Jason's face drained of color. He looked at Mom, then at me, then at the neighbors peeking out from behind curtains. This isn't over, he muttered before turning and storming back inside. Mom let out a shaky breath and put the car in drive. We followed Grandma's car to a restaurant about 20 minutes away to regroup and figure out what to do next. As we drove, I kept my eyes on the side mirror, watching Jason's house, no, not our house anymore, get smaller and smaller until it disappeared. For the first time in a long time, I felt something deep in my chest. Hope. We weren't completely safe yet, but for the first time since Jason came into our lives, we were free. I looked over at Mom, her hands clenched so tightly around the steering wheel her knuckles were white. But she was smiling through tears. We did it, she whispered. We're going home. We pulled into the restaurant parking lot and just sat there for a minute, both of us breathing hard. The adrenaline was still pounding through me. I realized I'd been clutching my backpack so tightly my fingers hurt when I finally loosened my grip. Grandma parked next to us and practically ran to Mom's side of the car. They hugged for a long time, Mom sobbing into Grandma's shoulder. Mr. Whitaker stood a few steps away, politely giving them space until they finished. We should head inside, he said finally, checking his watch. Better to go over next steps somewhere public. The place was a cozy family restaurant with way too much cheesy decor on the walls. We tucked ourselves into a back booth where we could talk without anyone overhearing. I wasn't hungry at all, but Grandma insisted I order some fries. Mom just got coffee, her hands still shaking so bad she could barely lift the cup. Mr. Whitaker pulled out a leather folder and set it on the table. The temporary restraining order is good for 2 weeks, he explained. In that time, we'll prep for a hearing to get a permanent one. The recordings and journal entries you provided make a strong case. But what if he comes after us? I asked. That fear had been sitting in the back of my mind since the second we drove off. If he violates the order, he'll be facing real consequences, Mr. Whitaker said firmly. Most people in his position are smart enough not to risk it. Mom just stared into her coffee, lost in thought. But where are we going to stay? She finally whispered. All our stuff is still at the house. You'll stay with me, Grandma said immediately. Both of you. The guest room's ready. But your house only has 2 bedrooms, Mom said. I'll sleep on the couch, I offered. Honestly, I would have slept in a closet if it meant getting away from Jason. We'll figure it out later, Grandma said. The important thing is you're safe. Mr. Whitaker told us we'd have to go back to the house for our essentials. But not alone. I can arrange a police escort, he said. Jason won't be allowed near you while you're there. The idea of stepping foot back into that house made my stomach churn. But there were things I needed. Clothes, school supplies, and the chess set Dad had given me before he died. I hadn't even thought about it in the rush to escape. We stayed at the restaurant for nearly 2 hours, hashing out plans and filling out paperwork. Mr. Whitaker kept checking his phone. Partway through, he excused himself to take a call. When he came back, his face was serious. Jason just called my office, he said. He wants to discuss a property settlement. Mom looked up sharply. Already? It's actually good news, Mr. Whitaker explained. Means he's accepting the situation rather than gearing up for a fight. I told my assistant to set a meeting for next week. By the time we left the restaurant, it was starting to get dark. We followed Grandma's car through town and into our old neighborhood, the one we lived in before everything went sideways. Everything looked smaller than I remembered, but not worse. Felt cozy, safe. Grandma's house smelled exactly the same too, like cinnamon and old books. I nearly broke down the second I stepped inside. I hadn't realized just how much I missed this place until that moment. That night, even though Grandma insisted otherwise, I slept on the pull-out couch. Mom took the guest room. I could hear her crying softly through the wall. I wanted to go to her, but something told me she needed to cry it out alone. I barely slept. Every car that passed outside made my body tense, afraid it was Jason. Around 3 a.m., I got up and checked every door and window, making sure they were locked tight. Grandma found me sitting by the front window, keeping watch. He won't come here, she said gently, sitting down beside me. And just so you know, I had new locks installed last week. You knew we were coming? I hoped, she said, smiling a little. Ever since you called me from school, I started getting ready, just in case. The next morning, Mr. Whitaker showed up with Officer Brooks, a kind-faced woman with short brown hair. We formed a little convoy, Mr. Whitaker's car, a police cruiser, and Grandma's car. When we pulled up to Jason's house, his car wasn't there. Thank God. Officer Brooks went in first to make sure everything was clear. When she waved us in, we had 2 hours to grab what we needed. The house felt different, colder, empty, like it wasn't even ours anymore. I headed straight to my room and started packing anything that mattered. Clothes, books, my chess set. I even found the old phone chargers I had hidden all around, and smiled a little at the memory. Meanwhile, Mom moved through the house methodically. She gathered up our important documents from Jason's office, finding our birth certificates and Dad's life insurance paperwork locked away in a drawer. Officer Brooks helped Mom make a full list of everything we were taking, just to make sure there couldn't be any disputes later. I was packing up my desk when I realized something was missing. My journal. The one Jason had found. The one with all my notes about what he'd done. I tore my room apart looking for it, but it was gone. He probably destroyed it, Mom said when I told her. But it doesn't matter anymore. We've got the recordings. Mr. Whitaker has copies of everything. We were almost done when my school tablet pinged with a new email. It was from Jason, sent to my school account. The subject line said, "I know you'll check this eventually." I hesitated for a second, then opened it. It was just one line. "I hope you're happy with what you've done to this family." I showed it to Officer Brooks right away. She added it to her report as another violation of the restraining order. "Don't respond," she advised. "Block his email and have your school's IT department block him too." We loaded everything into Grandma's car and Mr. Whitaker's trunk. As we pulled away, I looked back at the house one last time. I hated that place, but somehow, leaving still felt strange. Like I was walking away from a version of my life that was supposed to be normal. Not Jason himself. Never him. Maybe just the idea that things could have been different. Back at Grandma's, we started settling in. Mom re-enrolled me at my old school, and surprisingly, they took me back without much fuss. Ms. Harper, the principal, nodded seriously after Mom explained the situation. "Unfortunately, we see this more than we should," she said. "We'll make sure he can't access him or any school information." My old friends were shocked to see me. The rumors about why we left had gotten crazy. Some thought we moved to Europe, others heard Mom got some fancy job. I didn't tell them the full truth. Just that things hadn't worked out with Mom's boyfriend and we moved back. Casey was the only one who knew the real story. Having someone who understood made a huge difference. That first week back at school was strange, but better than I expected. Chess club welcomed me like I'd never left. Mom started therapy right away too. I overheard part of her first phone session from the living room. The therapist asked why she stayed with Jason so long, and Mom's answer broke my heart. "He never hit us," she said. Like somehow that made everything okay. Thought as long as there wasn't physical abuse, we were fine. After that, Grandma suggested I try talking to someone too. At first, I didn't want to. I figured I hadn't been the one fooled by Jason. But eventually, I gave it a shot. Dr. Sinclair, my therapist, helped me see that it wasn't my job to protect Mom, even though I'd done a pretty good job of it. About 3 weeks after we left, I was walking home from Casey's house when I spotted a familiar black Audi parked near Grandma's. My blood ran cold. It was Jason. I remembered our safety plan. "Don't go inside. Get help." I bolted straight to Mrs. Bennett's house next door. "Jason's here," I blurted as she opened the door. She pulled me inside without a second thought and called both Grandma and the police. Grandma wasn't home, she was out grocery shopping, but Mom was. I felt sick thinking about Mom alone in the house with Jason. Mrs. Bennett kept me in her kitchen, offering me cookies I couldn't even think about eating. The police arrived in minutes. From the window, I watched 2 officers walk up to Jason's car. He didn't even try to hide. Just sat there, waiting. They talked to him for a few minutes. One officer stayed with Jason while the other headed to Grandma's house. When Grandma got home about 20 minutes later, I ran outside to meet her. Jason was still arguing with one of the officers. "I just wanted to talk," he was saying. "I brought back some of their stuff." The officer shook his head. "The restraining order is very clear. You can't be within 100 feet. You need to leave. Now." Jason caught sight of me standing with Grandma. For a second, I thought he was going to charge at us. But instead, he just climbed into his car and peeled off. The officer came over and explained they'd checked the box Jason left on the porch. Just some clothes and old books. Nothing dangerous, but still a violation. Mom tried to act brave. See? The system works, she said with a shaky smile. He can't hurt us anymore. But that night, I saw her double-check every lock. Grandma called a security company the next morning and had cameras installed. Weeks turned into months. Jason got ordered to attend anger management after violating the order. We eventually moved into a small apartment near Grandma's, but I still spent a lot of weekends at her place. Mom found a job at a local bookstore. I jumped back into normal kid stuff, chess club, science club. It wasn't perfect. I still had nightmares sometimes. Mom still flinched at loud noises. But little by little, things got better. We built new routines. Made new friends. Mom even started dating again carefully. A nice guy named James who worked at the library. He always asked my opinion about everything. After the restraining order became permanent, we felt safe enough to throw the birthday party I never got. Nothing fancy, just pizza, cake, and games at our apartment. Mom went all out decorating. Colorful streamers, balloons, a huge cake. During the party, Casey pulled me aside. You know, they said you never would have had this party if you'd stayed with Jason. I looked around the room. At my friends laughing. At Mom chatting with Grandma under the paper streamers. Yeah, I said. Sometimes the worst things lead to the best things. Not to get too deep or anything, but it felt true. If Jason hadn't canceled my birthday party that year, I might never have fought back. I might still be that scared, quiet kid tiptoeing through a cold, angry house. Instead, I was back where I belonged, with people who actually cared. Last week, I even ran into Jason's old friend, the one who'd left our house disgusted that day. He recognized me at the mall. He said Jason never mentions us anymore. Acts like we never existed. And honestly, that's just fine by me. Because in my mind, he doesn't exist either.